Okay, well, we are live once again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our happy half hour here this Thursday on March 24th. I am David Shakavage, the president of Carolina Retirement Planners. And now for getting close to 2 years, we have every Thursday held a little happy half hour for half an hour. And this week we have a special guest. You can see joining us on the screen is Dick Horgan, attorney Dick Horgan, who's appeared on our happy half hour 2 or 3 times in the past 2 years, and he's here today. Say hi to everyone, Dick.
Hello there.
So make sure your sound is working. We also have Kristen here. Kristen is going to do our drawing today. You're used to seeing my daughter Sam, who's partner in the business, but she is actually at a conference in, I think, Dallas right now. So we've decided instead that Kristen will pinch hit and do our drawing here as we go along. So
it's my favorite part.
That's right. We're going to have a good time. What is everybody drinking?
Today, I decided to be healthy and do a little water.
Yeah, I'm having it really is iced tea. I'm honest. I found that it's not so good to drink drinks. And how about you, Dick? What are you drinking?
A Bloody Mary in case there's some tough questions.
Okay.
He's
And
ready.
we should also take a moment to introduce our director of client fun, Amy, who is the one that runs all this.
Hi, everyone. I'm going big time today. Whiskey. I don't think anybody's ever seen me drink whiskey ever.
Well, one of the things we like to talk about each time is what day this is. What are we commemorating today?
Today is National Chocolate Covered Raisin Day. There's lots of days, but that's the one.
Chocolate covered raisin, like those little raisinettes you get in the box at the movie theater, right?
Yeah, right.
Exactly what I was thinking.
You're like sneaking.
And what other days? What other day is it?
It is also National Cheesesteak Day, National Cocktail Day. I mean, pick one. There's always something crazy happening.
Cocktail Day is my favorite, and very often after the happy half hour, I have a Manhattan, High West Double Rye Manhattan. But while we're talking about cocktails, you get me on the subject. Historically, in the hot weather, I've always liked the Americano. It's the first drink that James Bond drank in any of his books. In Italy, it's vermouth and a sweet vermouth and Campari, 50-50 with some soda water. And it makes a great drink. They called it an Americano because during Prohibition, so many Americans went to Italy and drank them that they named it. But a guy named Count Negroni went and had an equal mix of sweet vermouth, Campari, and gin because he didn't think it was strong enough. But one place I've discovered, there's a pizza place called Benny's. If you've been there, right across from the Satellite on Greenfield Street, and they make what's called a Boulevardier, which is equal parts of vermouth, Campari, and whiskey. And with on ice, man, I just love that drink. So
I've had one of those.
You got me going on drinks. We got going on drinks, So
wait. I might have missed it, but wait, Dick, what are you drinking? Did you tell us? What are you drinking?
Bloody Mary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he needs a little extra pep in his step for today's subject.
And we're gonna get on with Dick very shortly, but I just want to say hi while we're at it here. We always like to say hi, to shout out to people that are here. Bruce, Mary, Brad, Robert, good to see you. Sally. Robert is drinking a Cabernet from Fermental. Jameson, Arlen Jameson is here. Dan and our Back to the Mountains, Dan and Barb are back in the mountains. Sally is drinking water. Fred, good to see you again. Brenda is here, our own Brenda, our own Mary, Bruce, Teresa, and Mary.
My mom said yum to your Bloody Mary, Dick. My mom is a Bloody Mary fan.
Alexander. So that's a little bit of our kind of our prelude here and what day it is. So you can sit down, drink whiskey, and eat chocolate covered raisins, you know? Although the raisins would probably go better with red wine, you know? But anyway.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that nice Cabernet.
So Dick, what you have some topics you want to tell us about, some specific things to highlight this week. What is top of your mind for today's happy half hour?
Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to lodge a slight protest. I happen to be Irish, and anyone who would take an adult beverage happy hour and condense it to a half hour needs a little consulting work, I think.
I like it.
But at David's suggestion, I'm going to comment on just 3 brief topics that I thought might be interesting. They're sort of either new developments or they're new to my practice, which I think you guys know is helping clients with estate planning. And then David's going to open up the questions, either spontaneous from y'all or the ones that have been sent in by email. So the first thing you want to talk about is this magic subject that's very popular, cryptocurrencies, so-called cryptos. David, it turns out there are like 13,000 of these things out there in the Ethernet somewhere. Of course, the big ones are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, we don't have time today, and I'm not qualified to explain how these things work. But the point I want to make is all of a sudden, I find that quite a few of my clients have invested, some quite successfully, in cryptos. I've not had the courage to do so, but a lot of my clients have. And my purpose today in raising it is to emphasize that this special digital nature, the digital nature of this asset does require some careful planning. Now, I'm sure you folks know that there's no document of title, there's no account statement, there's no deed, there's no document or computer record anywhere that says who owns what. It's all anonymous on purpose. So if Dave is going to open up a crypto account this afternoon, he goes online, but there's no connection allegedly between his online account and the information that can be conveyed. And they send him a seed, S-E-E-D, a seed phrase, which then David would use to create a secret key. Now, the key is just a long combination of letters and numbers, and it's known only to the guy creating the account, in this case, hypothetically, David. That key is fascinating stuff to me. The key is then stored in something called a wallet. Now, not the old leather wallet Dave and I carry around and not the lady's purse, but it's known as either a hot wallet or a cold wallet. A hot wallet is a device that is connected to the internet. And if you have a hot wallet, your access to your Bitcoin account is via the internet. And that's fast and efficient, but the cost is it's then subject to possible hacking. So they invented this thing called a cold wallet where you keep this secret key. And that's just an offline storage device. Could be a little thumb drive, could be a computer that's not connected to the internet, could be a tablet or a smartphone that's not on the internet. And therefore, that's viewed as more secure and insulated from hacking because someone have to break into your house or your office, find the device, figure out how to turn it on, and then somewhere get knowledge of the key. So the point is, David does this, and then tomorrow David has a stroke or David dies. Well, maybe Sandy, his wife, or the adult children wouldn't know what the key is, couldn't find it, don't know how to access it, and then magically the investment is just lost. Yeah, it's out there, but it ain't belonging to anybody. It's all anonymous. So this is obvious, but your standard brokerage account or IRA, whatever, typically has a beneficiary designation. Not so with a crypto account. So to properly plan for crypto, someone other than the original investor has to be told that it exists, where to find it, and what to do with it. So you got to find a really trusted family member because they're going to have access, or an outside fiduciary. A great option, as a child, there was this comic book, Spy versus Spy, that I loved. A black spy and a white spy. That's politically incorrect now, but they had this thing called a dead man switch. And if you want to, you can set up your crypto account with a dead man switch that will automatically, it's amazing, automatically trigger the transfer of the crypto to someone else if the investor fails to check in, let's say every 2 weeks by midnight on Saturday night. Well, if the investor has a stroke or the investor misses his plane connection and can't get on the internet, whammo, somebody else now owns this. So a dead man switch is pretty clever, but it has certain risks. The point I want to make is sometimes clients fail to do any estate planning. This is an asset. You put some money there, but if you're not careful, people get caught up in the anonymity, in the idea of secrecy. Some of us find secrecy fascinating, but remember, the secret investment simply disappears if the guy who knows the secret dies. So you got to do a little planning if you got a crypto account.
Got to go into a whole lot more planning. You also have to be careful. I've done a few shows on cryptocurrency, and there are a number of things that have occurred in the past. There was the South Sea bubble that I think Newton lost a lot of money on investing in the South Sea bubble. There was the tulip craze. There was a craze on ostrich feathers. It's like the tulips, the value went through the roof. No one could figure out why. Beanie Babies went great. The cryptocurrency looks a lot the same in a lot of ways, So you got to be real cautious about cryptocurrency. But yeah, boy, you got to be, if you are going to invest in that, you need to be really careful that you secure the numbers, because they could get lost easily. So
and to generalize, even simple things like passwords and usernames, your spouse needs to know what they are if something happens to you. So digital things involve a lot of new issues. Okay. Second thing I want to mention is what I think is a crazy provision that snuck into the North Carolina law about trust a few years ago when North Carolina adopted the Uniform Trust Code. Now, uniform law is some nationally based blue ribbon committee generates a law that they think it may make sense for every state to treat checking accounts the same way and so forth. So it's a uniform code. North Carolina adopted its own version of it. And one of the more interesting changes is that the North Carolina law always used to be, for a long time, that you had to have basically all of your marbles to be able to amend your own revocable trust. In other words, the testamentary capacity required to amend a revocable trust used to be the same as required for making or amending a will. Same level of.
yeah, I remember usually with a will, you always have to testify or use sound mind and body to sign this will and the like.
Right. Okay. But when they adopted the North Carolina version of Uniform Trust Code, they put in two sections back to back that I think are flatly inconsistent. This is real short. So for any trust executed after 2005, which is most of my trusts, the last 17 years, first sentence is, quote, the capacity, I'm quoting now the North Carolina statute, the capacity required to create or amend or revoke a revocable trust is the same as that required to make a will. Well, that's the classic law. The very next sentence, very next section, I think is flatly inconsistent. Quote, unless the terms of a trust expressly provide that the trust is irrevocable, and of course a revocable trust doesn't do that, the settlor, that's the guy whose trust it is, quote, may revoke or amend the trust without regard to the actual capacity of the settlor. Whoa, that's just wrong. That's what the statute says. So under that statute, for example, husband and wife have a joint trust, years pass, very typical, one trust, not a two trust couple, they have a joint trust. Husband gets dementia, wife wants to make a change. Maybe it's a blended family, but wife wants to make a change. So she signs the amendment, sticks it under the nose of hubby, who signs it, doesn't have a clue what he's signing. And under that statute, that would be valid, even though the husband was incompetent. So in theory, it adds a lot of flexibility about making amendments, but it opens the door to the possibility of a lot of really questionable amendments. So I think we should, even though the statute allows it on its face, we ought to go back and I run my practice where if you don't have your marbles or you've had a really bad stroke, we can't go amending your document. Third subject I want to mention is pretty brief, but it has to do with IRA trusts. And I'll tell you at the end why I'm mentioning it. First, as David knows all this stuff, Americans are reported to have something like $32 trillion in qualified retirement accounts. Massive amount of money, IRAs, 401ks, SEPs, and the like. And as we all know, the Secure Act, this new congressional act, effective in 2020, now says that a non-disabled adult child or grandchild has to take the money who inherits an IRA, has to take the money out of the inherited IRA and pay income taxes within 10 years of the owner's death.
Yeah, most people recall in the past, if you left your IRA to your child, who might be 30 or 40, they could take a little bit out every year and stretch the distributions out over their life and their whole lifespan. So they might have to take 3 or 4% out the first year and kind of go on like that. But now it's different. Now they've got to take it all out by the end of 10 years. They can take it all out at the very end, but then they got to pay an awful lot of taxes at once, or they can break it into pieces over 10 years.
And that stretch out, that lifetime stretch out, still applies happily to a spouse, surviving spouse, and to, God forbid, a severely disabled child. So if you, God forbid, you have a disabled child, that person can do a lifetime stretch out.
If you qualify for Social Security disability, you usually will qualify for stretching it out. We actually have some cases like that. So
let me go back to the point I want to get to here. With an IRA trust, when the money leaves the custodian, Fidelity, Vanguard, you name it, when it leaves the custodian, the taxes get paid. And but the after-tax money doesn't go directly to the adult child beneficiary. It goes to the trust for the benefit of the adult child beneficiary, which means whoever is the trustee of that trust can control when the adult child has access to it and for what purposes they can use the money. See, the IRS gets its pound of flesh when it comes out of the IRA. So the IRS doesn't care how long the money sits in the trust under the control of the trustee. So there are two things to have in mind. IRA trusts is the only way that the account owner can have any say, if they want to, any say over when the beneficiary can get their hands on the money to buy the hot new Corvette and what purposes the money can be used for. More importantly, in my view, the IRA trust is the only way the original account owner can make sure that their adult child who inherits the IRA someday will get total blanket, absolute divorce, creditor, and estate tax protection when the adult child dies for the benefit of grandchildren. So a real quick example, dad dies, mom's got his IRA and some of hers, and then the surviving parent dies, leaving $1 million to 2 adult kids. If the 2 adult kids receive it in their own name, their taxable estate immediately goes up by $500,000. And in many states, depending now where the adult child lives, and these days they're living all over the place, the $500K is subject to claims of a future divorcing spouse or of a creditor. But if you
and if I recall, if you, in most cases, if your spouse inherits your IRA, you're still protected from lawsuit. Most IRAs, 401ks have lawsuit protection, but when you leave it to your kids, all those protections go away unless you create a special trust.
Not necessarily all of them, but it varies enormously by state law. Well, your child's living in Pennsylvania, it's going to be different than Delaware or Tennessee or Florida. So the state law governs credit protection and divorce protection, et cetera. And it's all over the lot. But the only way to get protection is to have this trust. And then the nice thing is the trust, depending what the client wants, because it's a client's IRA, they can design the trust so as to give, if they want to, the adult child total access to it. They don't have to restrict them. But if they want to, they can impose restrictions on the adult child or a grandchild if the parent thinks that the beneficiary is too spendy or not financially savvy or prudent, or if the child has a liability because of their occupation. You know, the real estate broker, the doctor, the nurse, the construction, the guy building houses. So an Ira Trust addresses that. And the reason I brought it up today is I've only been doing, they're a relatively new invention, if you will. I've only been doing them for the last 5-6 years. So if I did an estate plan for any of you guys listening today or in the future, more than 5 years ago, and if today you've still got a nice chunk in an IRA or 401k, perhaps because the market's been sort of going up over the last decade, perhaps we should sit and talk about what your options are. Because 10 years ago, we weren't talking about that subject. So David, that's what I had in mind, just mentioned today. You asked me to be brief. I tried to be. So let's see what questions we got.
Okay, and for those of you who aren't aware, Dick and I, we've been working together. He's been helping clients of ours for, I think, about 20 years now. I think we started about 20 years ago, and he's done literally hundreds of people. So he's very experienced, specializing in wills and trust and asset protection. Do we have a question, Amy? Do we have anything in the list that we probably have time for one or two? We want to end here in about 5 minutes. What else could we address?
Yeah, I will. I'll leave that up to Dick. I don't know which ones he would like to answer. Is there one in particular, or?
Well, okay, I got one question earlier today, and I'll just read the question from a male, a grandfather. I have an adult grandchild who has special medical needs currently being provided by a state Medicaid program. How can I make money available to the granddaughter without jeopardizing her governmental support? And the answer is there's a very tried and true mechanism. It's been around a long time that answers that question, that solves that problem. It's called a special needs trust, also known as a supplemental needs trust. So if you want to leave money to someone who is now or may in the future be receiving governmental benefits because of some disability, this is the tried and true vehicle. So in this case, real fast, if the grandfather created a special needs trust for the benefit of the granddaughter, and he would put some of his own money into the trust, not the granddaughter's separate money, but his own money, it's then a third party funded. Grandpa's money went into the trust for granddaughter, a third party trust. It's typically an irrevocable trust, so granddad can't get the money back. It's irrevocably earmarked for the granddaughter. And the trust, very precisely, authorizes the trustee to make money available in the discretion of the trustee. Grandchild can't say, give me the money. Has no right to demand the money. It's all in the discretion of the trustee. And more importantly, can only be used for the non-necessities of the granddaughter. Well, food, shelter, clothing, put clothing aside. Think room and board, think food and lodging, because Medicaid provides a housing allowance and supplemental things for necessities like food. So because the trust money cannot be used for basic necessities, it doesn't interfere with the government's provision for it, and it doesn't jeopardize anyone's entitlement. And the trustee, in his or her discretion, can be a family member. There's no prohibition about being a family member, can pay for a lot of things to help the beneficiary, such as better medical care, vacation money, transportation, education, tutoring, Sony TV, restaurants, you name it. So there's a lot of ways to help that granddaughter out without jeopardizing the government benefit.
Okay. I'll tell you, we have a whole bunch of questions have come in,
Oh, yes, they have. Yes, they have.
What we're going to do is perhaps next month we'll bring Dick back and we'll queue up some of these questions and see if he can address some of them for you. I know that in the past people really appreciated Dick's advice and such that he's given us on legal questions. And we're kind of out of time for today because we always keep our happy half hour, even though happy hour should be an hour, I agree, but we keep it to half an hour, then people can sit back and finish the rest of their drink in the following half hour.
Leave
So
it
we'll
to the
come back and do
Irishman.
that.
Stir the pot. Stir in the pot over there, Dick. Look at you go.
Well, I do have, David, I don't know the methodology of your Facebook page. Would there be a way to simply post the questions that come in, and I'll answer them in writing and post the answers on the Facebook, so it's available generally, as opposed to only those people who can sit in at the next conference? But
Oh,
Well,
we
we'll see.
wish.
I leave
We
it
have
to-
so many questions. We'll see if you have enough time, but I'd still rather you come on verbally and talk about these as well. So
Yeah,
we
and
may do a
unfortunately,
combination of both.
wait, I will hop in and I can answer that question. Unfortunately, the our like compliance and new like federal laws prohibit us from answering questions. Like, so even if we post those questions, we can't have you or anyone else commenting. I know it's like the most, I can't even go and like my mom making a comment on our Facebook page. It's the most ridiculous nonsense government rules. If
Then next time, let's just do questions. Let's not
Yeah,
have-
I love it. Yeah.
We'll do
We
some
have so
questions.
many that came in. Absolutely. And we just run out of time so quickly. So yeah, I
The-
think people would love that.
And another little quick offer, dick@dickhorgan.com. Just send me your question. I'll be happy to do it that way.
Yeah,
There you go.
dickhorgan.com. You can go to his website and send those to him directly. But in terms of the drawing, as you know, if you have signed up for signed up to take the Facebook, signed up on Facebook, emailed us something saying, hey, I want to be entered, wrote in a question, we put you in the pot. If you say, hey, we sent a friend, you know, to the thing as well, we put an extra one in. So Kristen, your turn now to pull stuff out.
I've been waiting for this whole time, and we've got lots and lots of entries this week from all the questions you guys sent in to Dick. So,
And
Should be a
I
good
did
one.
send all those questions to Dick. We just run out of time. I mean, it goes so quickly.
okay. I don't know if you guys are ready. All right. And this week's winner of 2 bottles from Fermental is Sylvia C.
Sylvia
Congrats.
C,
Congratulations, Sylvia.
We will deliver to you 2 bottles of wine from Fermental Wine Shop. Amy will be calling you to get to know what your tastes are and match it up with a couple good bottles of wine. So
Yes. And thank you, Dick. That was so interesting. I didn't even think about laws changing like cryptocurrency, and
Yeah.
it's crazy out there.
yeah, it's a hoot. It's always
Interesting.
the legal and the financial are always kind of intertwined, and we work hard to get them both working together.
One of the
But
clients,
with that,
Dave and I have a mutual client. I'm working on some things for them now. They're going to be nameless, but he's made a bloody little fortune on crypto because he got in early. Just remarkable.
Yeah.
some
Crazy.
people have done it. You have to be very careful. In fact, it's funny. We financial people are not allowed to give financial advice in the world of crypto. They kind of avoid me. I mean, it's just kind of, you can't do that, you know? So I do, however, I am sort of speculative. It still looks a lot like the South Sea bubble. And, you know, it very well may all evaporate. We'll see. We'll see.
I think that's a whole
be
nother
serious.
topic. Could last a
Yeah,
while.
We did a topic on it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
So
the blockchain itself has other applications that will go on one way or the other and change the world in many ways. So it's going to be interesting. But with that, I want
Thank
to
you, Dick. We
give
appreciate you. You are
everybody a
wonderful.
toast,
Yes.
and we will see you all
Okay.
next Thursday for another happy half hour.
Yeah.
And we will see you then. Thank you all, and have a great weekend.
Happy weekend. Avoid the puddles. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, David.